On April the 8th, 2024, there is a solar eclipse that literally enlivens or reactivates eclipses that happened in April of 1986 and April of 2005 at exactly the same degree, 19 Aries, on exactly the same day, April the 8th. You cannot make this stuff up. And we're going to dive in today how this eclipse that is on a Sabian symbol about social conscience, but also on a positive star named Revati, but also on a little bit of a scary asteroid called Icarus, who fell from the sky, could impact the world at large and you based on your sun, moon, and rising sign. Rising sign being the most accurate. I'll explain why in a bit. By the way, if you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Lori Lothian. I'm using the Western Tropical Zodiac, whole sign houses, and fixed stars. By the way, I'm just trying to help you time your best life by using astrology as a navigational tool. And if you want to try my Sky Reader class, it's coming up in the middle of April. It also teaches you how to time your best life using astrology timing techniques and tools and the basics of astrology. Live classes, live Q&As, and a Facebook group for your homework. This class is keepable by you forever in my teaching platform. So if you can't make all of the classes or you get behind, you can always catch up. All right, let's get talking about the sky ahead. Oh, it is important because it is happening in a cycle that is a rinse and repeat for all of us. Because in 1986, 87, and in 2004, 2005, when the eclipses were going through Aries and Libra, we had calamitous war in the Middle East and disturbances of the peace. And we're having it again on steroids. And at the same time, I'd like to bring your attention to the fact that in the sky, we also have the energy of that Sabian symbol that I really think is quite exceptional. I'm going to read it to you. Now, I'm having to do a new introduction to this video because my brain went on to like zone out mode earlier. But the Sabian symbol in this book that I really love, you can see that I've had it for years, right? This is the Sabian symbol book by Diana E. Roche, called A Screen of Prophecy. What do I like about this book? Well, because she is a very evocative writer. There are other Sabian symbol books and or resources out there online, but I enjoy her mindset. So I'm going to read the Sabian symbol to you that is 20 degrees of Aries. And remember, we felt that same Sabian symbol that she aligns with the word social conscience back in April of 1986, solar eclipse at a year, right? And then April of 2005 at a year. So social conscience are keywords. And I also would remind you that this is an X marks the spot eclipse right through America, because the Ring of Fire eclipse, October the 14th, swath through the United States of America from like the Oregon, Portland type region all the way down through to Texas. And this one is going the other way from the eastern seaboard, and swathing through Texas, this way. And so it creates an X marks the spot in Texas, where we have a lot of tension over migrants in the United States, border control, and of course, things to do with Texas, to do with the word holy war. Wait till I get to that piece of the story. So we also have this kind of X marks the spot eclipse, which I'll show you a picture of in a minute. Now, the Sabian symbols. Let's talk about this one at Aries 20 degrees, because it's quite sweet in a way, right? I'm liking it, but I'm telling you, there's intensity in the sky. World leaders are falling from power on this eclipse. Just so you know, in the ancient world, a solar eclipse was the death of the king or a hardship to the king or the eclipsing of the light of the king. A lunar eclipse was about the people in the kingdom themselves, the kingdom, the land, the people. So you eclipse the sun in the ancient world, you could eclipse a king. Aries is a sign of war, so a warrior king. What warrior king could be eclipsed at this time who's complicit or active in a war? We'll dive into that a bit later. I appreciate your thoughts about that. Aries 20, a young girl feeding birds in the winter. Oh, that's so sweet. Winter, birds need food. There's nothing there. The worms aren't coming up. There's not a lot to eat. So there's an energy of wanting to help the birds during the winter time. Keyword hospitality, theme social conscience. The symbol is speaking to kindness and generosity, maturation, and the development of a social conscience. And she uses these keywords at the end of every one of her delineations. And she uses helpfulness, generosity, giving, and kindness. What happened to kindness in this world? Altruism, care, concern, social conscience, sympathy, and innocence. Well, as well, the star is on Revati, a star that has a lot of good energy around prosperity, about goodness, about generosity as well. So, and it's the star Revati that is the tail of the fish connected together as Pisces, as the hook that ties them together, the binding of two fishes that wish to swim in two different directions. The star Revati is a positive star, and that is a hopeful Sabian symbol. Now, in each of our lives, we go through these cycles and we have themes that keep repeating, as well as the world keeps ad nauseum repeating the cycles. Let me show you the chart, and let me show you also, hopefully, the picture of the great eclipse. Go to thegreateclipse.com. If you want to engage in a website, I can't see that I'm sharing, so why not? I think I'm sharing, but my chart does not show that I'm sharing. So let's try it one more time. Share. Now, where did it go? Because now I'm sharing with you guys, and I wonder if you're seeing this big eclipse delineation and I'm not. Resume share. Maybe it's just because I've lost it. So hopefully you're seeing like an X marks the spot right now. Maybe you're seeing a black screen. Let me see what's going on. I'll see if I can find it on my desktop, which is a hot mess. If you've been seeing it, I'm not, and you're probably laughing at me. I apologize for the chaos. But it's on my desktop, and for some reason, when I go to open it up for you guys, it's like not showing. So I see it on the desktop. Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to give you a desktop delineation instead of the website. For some reason, I don't know what is going on. One more try. Okay, maybe it's hiding out in the back dark recesses of my chart. Maybe you're going to have to trust me that there is an absolute X marks the spot here. There we go. Oh my God. I can see it. You probably saw it all along. Okay, so technically, there's the Ring of Fire eclipse, October the 14th. That is part of the South Node on the nation of Israel, 21 degrees Libra, that was a part of the Hamas problem, the massacre, then the, what do you call it, the disproportionate response in asymmetrical warfare that followed this particular eclipse on the south node of the nation of Israel. Every time there are eclipses on the nation of Israel's ascendant-descendant axis, the axis of its open enemies and its vulnerable sense of I am Israel, there have been wars in the Middle East or uprisings against Israel power. Total solar eclipse, April the 8th, 2024. This is what we're encountering now. There's Texas. See, it's right smack dab going through the country of Texas. This country of Texas is probably a Freudian slip. Watch them secede from the nation in the next 5 years. Let's talk about this for just a second. There's a really weird story here that Dan Waits of World Astrology Report, he was on my channel talking about Pluto. No, the Uranus conjunction with Jupiter. Go watch that. And literally, he came across this stuff about the 4 red heifers that were imported from Texas to the West Bank in Israel a few months ago, a year ago maybe, to do with the idea that these 4 red heifers, or any red cow with unblemished, perfect red heifer cow, is a sign that Israel's going to see the Savior, the Messiah is coming for Israel. And this is a prophecy, and it has to do with this, I think, the destruction of the Al-Aqsa Mosque and all of that. And those cows were shipped from like fundamentally religious Christians in Texas to Israel so that we could fulfill the prophecy. And they have to be slaughtered. They have to be slaughtered. And there's a whole slaughter structure that's built for these cows. You want to talk about a holy war. It's not just the radical Islamic quadrant of reality. There is also a radical Christian and a radical Judaic tradition. So keep that in mind. So go watch Dan Waite's video on this, because I put it in the description box below from his World Astrology Report delineation. Now, I will tell you that this is not just about power, greed, and wealth. Wars are more than that when they become religious. They get involved in a kind of messianic compulsion. And we have that going on with the born-again Christian contingent in the United States who's waiting for Armageddon so Jesus will come back. And it all has to do with the prophecy of the rebuilding of the King Herod's temple in Israel that can only happen if you destroy the Al-Aqsa Mosque, etc. So if you believe in biblical prophecy because you're religious, you'll do anything to make things happen. Anything, including genocide. So And one more little detail about that before we do your sign, No, I'll save that little detail for later. I don't want to burden you. Let's talk about cycles in our lives. Your life, my life, your life, rinse, repeat, hopefully on a spiral of ascending elegance and connection to divine intelligence rather than a descending spiral into chaos or entropic spiral. But I want to give you some dates, and I want to give you the dates while I talk about the world, and also you can think about your own lives, okay? All eclipses through Aries and Libra in this configuration of North Node Rahu in Aries and South Node in Libra will always bring about similar results. You can just technically say South Node in Libra every 18 and a half years will be the dissolution of treaties and alliances between governing powers and bodies and changes and losses in the justice system. So the South Node in Libra started last year in the month of July and will continue to January of 25. And you'll see disappointments and losses and changes of allegiance and a lack of peace and peace treaties. All right. So we have things like Roe versus Wade being overturned, injustices. We have things like new alliances like the BRICS nations and old alliances falling apart. We have new NATO countries coming on and old ones maybe falling away. Let's keep seeing what happens until January of 2021. And in this is world events, we see the North Node propelling war because Aries is a sign of war, right? Aries, the god of war, Nergal, the Babylonian god of war, the emissary of those gods is Mars. And so we'll see increasing conflict and war in the world during the North Node transit through the sign of Aries every 18 and a half years. Now, let's go back and talk about time frames. Get your pen, please, cup of coffee, get your notes ready. What was happening in your life January 27th, 1949 to July 26th, 1950? Can you remember that time at all? Probably not many of you can. So in 1948, the United Nations declared that Israel would have some land in Palestine, then occupied by Palestinian Arabs. And so they gave that land to Israel, which was actually 53% of the land, not even half, but more. And that displaced the Palestinian people. But more than that, in 1948, as this new occupation was occurring, also into 1949, don't forget those eclipses that we're talking about aren't just the eclipses. When I say, do you remember January of 1949? I'm talking about when the North Node moved into the sign of Aries and the South Node into the sign of Libra. But in 1948, there were eclipses happening in the fall in the sign of Libra. And that therefore overlaps with the basic displacement of Palestinian peoples in 1948-49, which was called the Nakba. And the Nakba is an ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people because the Jewish people took over their land and property and their belongings. There were massacres that targeted Arabs, and that 500 Arab majority towns and villages were depopulated, with many of those people being their homes being completely destroyed, and the town names changed from Arabic names to Hebrew names. And approximately half of Palestine's predominantly Arab population, or 750,000 people, were expelled from their homes and had to flee their homes and dispersed into the neighboring Arab countries. Now, if you don't know that, you should know that. I did not know that before the war broke out. I'm bringing it up because it's about the eclipse cycle. So don't make this about me and what I think about this war. I'm talking astrology, mundane, and eclipses. Now, I will be talking about the eclipses for you and your sun, moon, and rising. That is going to be the next part of this video, but we always start with mundane or world astrology on my channel. And if you don't like that material, don't worry. You can jump ahead by clicking the timestamps on the pinned to the top of the comments an hour after the video airs. And that's because it takes that long for YouTube to sync it, or hitting the chapters at the top that jump you, hit the title of the video, and that'll create the chapters that allow you to jump to your sign. So don't take it as you have to listen to this, but please tune in nonetheless, if you don't mind. And then in August 20th of 1967, to April 19th of 1959, the nodes were in the Aries-Libra axis, and we all know that 1967 was the Six-Day War. Now, the Six-Day War is when Israel ended up taking over another chunk of real estate and went from 53% to 73% perhaps of the land by taking over the West Bank area, for example, and other property that belonged to neighboring countries, Egypt and neighboring countries, Jordan, etc. So we have another war going on in which there's more land acquisition by the nation of Israel in that time period, 1967. And then the next period of conflagration in the Middle East, but you weren't at war, were you? If you're old enough, what were you doing 67 to 69 in terms of eclipses, right? I was a kid. Moving into April 7th of 1986 to December of 1987. That was a window of time in which the first uprising called an intifada happened, in which the Palestinian people, and for 4 intense years after the intifada raged, were uprising against the occupation of their land and their rights by Israel. And then finally, moving forward, in December 27th of 2000. And we can also remember in 1987 with Libra South Node eclipses, meaning the scales of justice, but also the scales of commerce. There was Black Monday. Thank you to my commenter on my last video who reminded me of that. Black Monday happened in October of 1987. So we could see some major downdraft in the stock markets for that very reason yet again. And then lastly, we're moving in time forward, time traveling together here, aren't we? So we covered April of 86 to April of 87. And then finally, December 27th of 2004, we're talking about the nodes moving in. There was an eclipse in October that year, partial hybrid, but December of 2004 to June of 2006. Okay, June of 2006. What was going on in the world, 2004 to 2006? Remembering that there was on April the 8th, 2005, yet another perfect 19-degree Aries eclipse on April the 8th. So what was going on in the Middle East in 2004 and 2005 into 2006, June of 2006, is Israel was leaving the Gaza Strip and depopulating its settlements that were illegally placed there. All settlements in the West Bank and Gaza are illegal. And they pulled those settlements out, and they took a new strategy with Gaza, which is that they barriered it in with checkpoints, and they destroyed the Yasser Arafat airport, and they basically, someone tell me the date of the destruction of the only international airport that was ever in Gaza, but I think it was just before they removed the settlements around that time. And they also decided that they were going to make, an apartheid state out of Gaza and control the flow of goods and services, water and electricity, and forbid a seaport or airport or any kind of statehood for Palestine. So while they took some illegal settlements out, they also controlled, or economically and militarily controlled, the Gaza Strip, which is a form of occupation. So in this story, I hope you're seeing repeating stories about the Palestinian or Arab peoples and Israel during these timeframes, which is why I'm bringing it up as a mundane astrology storyline. All right, and this eclipse cycle really is in play. We had an April eclipse last year at 29 degrees of Aries. Well, the nodes of fate were not quite fully lined up because it was July of 23 that the North Node moved into Aries and the South Node into Libra. We did see a 29-degree eclipse last year. We have this April eclipse happening on April 8th at 19 degrees of Aries. And next March 29th at 9 degrees of Aries is an eclipse as well in the sign of Aries. So we see this as the 3-part story, but this is by far the most important eclipse because this is an eclipse that is a total solar eclipse. Okay? Hopefully that's useful for you. So I will be sharing with you now some narratives to do with this kind of sky. And we're looking at the picture of the sky together. Let's talk about the asteroids involved in this story. I will delineate with a little annotation that here we have in the sky, Icarus, who fell from the sky with Mercury, which is news about falling leaders from the sky. There's the sun and moon, Chiron the wound, North Node, calamity. And over here, Apophis, an asteroid that can destroy the Earth. It's a real asteroid, comes close to Earth in 2027 and 2030 something. And the concern was when it was first found a few years ago that Apophis could destroy the Earth. because it's too close to Earth, but it turns out it will not hit the Earth, apparently. But it represents something that could destroy the Earth or something very calamitous. Now, Apophis is here with a North Node, inflaming war, inflaming aggression, inflaming conflict. Chiron, the wounded leader. Who's the wounded leader? They can fall from power. All eclipses of the sun are about the wounded leader, the wounded king. That's why the ancients thought them to be dark omens and difficult times. And this would be a leader in a wartime thing, the warrior king, the warrior leader, Aries. And this is also the fall, Icarus, whose wings melted because his dad Daedalus made the wings out of wax, and Icarus didn't seem to understand that wax would melt when it got close to the sun. And so it's a fall of a great height of some aspiration for power. The sun means power, leadership. All right, ascendancy. So we can see that the energy of the eclipse on the 8th of April is not telling us that this is going to happen on April the 8th, although it can be a month before and up to a year later minimum that we'll see the reverb and the outpicturing of this story. I can say in the next year, you're going to see a big leader fall from power. It could be Joe Biden, right? Because I don't think he's going to make it to the election. Joe Biden's, moon was a square Pluto, as King Charles' moon in Taurus, a square Pluto, but also eclipsed on October 28th. By a lunar eclipse. That is going to lead to challenges to both of those men in their health and other matters. We already saw King Charles. I predicted it in my Pluto video, I believe, that I did this year, that King Charles, because Pluto is squaring his moon and the eclipse happened on his moon, would have a health challenge and step down from power. I predicted that, guys. I need to go back and actually do video clips of all the things I've said that have happened. But also I said Biden won't make it to the election. I thought health reasons because the moon is in the house of sickness for him, but it's also the moon in the house of the people, the popular people. He's a Sag rising like the nation of Israel, the working class Joe, everybody in the workforce of America, the everyday worker, not the salt of the earth, not wanting to support him. And that's happening now because 6 or 7 out of 10 Americans in different polls are against this war and wanted it to stop yesterday in the Middle East. He's losing the young vote. He's losing the millennials. He's losing the votes of the Arab Americans, especially in Michigan. He stands to lose his election based on his alliance and / complicity with Israel. And Israel is becoming, as you know, a pariah state because nobody in the world supports what Israel's doing except for America. And, the asteroid America is tracking as the time is eclipse at 27 degrees of Capricorn. But as I record this in March, starting March 21st to the 28th or so, Asteroid America is in a tight square to the nation of Israel's ascendant. And that looks like the United States abstaining from the ceasefire vote in the United Nations, a couple of days ago, March the 25th and 4th, 5th, whenever it happened. And I'm recording for my Patreon community on the 26th of March. So when the asteroid America squares the ascendant of Israel, there's going to be conflict between America and Israel. And now Netanyahu, like the narcissist he is, has pulled his 2 men who are coming to Washington out of the meeting in Washington as a result of simply the United States abstaining from the ceasefire vote that was unanimous in the United Nations Security Council meeting. So we see conflict between America and Israel right now developing in terms of policy decisions. Yet America still votes to defund UNRWA and to send millions of dollars of aid and more weapons to Israel, even as it's hand-wringing on the side. Go figure. Any comments about what you guys think that's about? I'd love to hear from you. Now, I kind of mentioned earlier about leaders falling from power. Netanyahu, Biden, and America all have Sagittarius ascendants. And this fall from power is an actual flow to their ascendants, right? Because the Sagittarius part of the sky makes this the 5th house for these people. Now, it can be that it could be negative for either of them. It sure could. But I just want to say it's not the worst case scenario that I've ever seen in terms of fall from power and those particular people in the sky, in their narrative, right? But I want to show you something about that. And I also want to mention this. Whether you believe there's a holy war or a war of greed and power, Ben Gurion Canal, offshore gas rights that the Gazans own, etc. the need for the Ben Gurion Canal to go through northern Gaza to make it cost-effective and viable and actually more usable, and maybe make $5 billion a year for revenue for Israel, because that's what the Suez Canal makes right now. Whether any of that is possibly what really is going on, the fact is that Netanyahu was decreed and ordained by a very old rabbi from Chabad in Brooklyn, Orthodox religious cult sect, whatever you want to call it. And he told Netanyahu this, that Netanyahu is the savior of Israel, that he will bring Israel back, the temple will be reclaimed, Jerusalem will become, the holy place of the nation of Israel, and this savior of Israel, the Messiah, would return because of Netanyahu. Did you know that? Did you know that? There's a documentary about that. Netanyahu knows that. He's carrying this sort of knighthood that he was told this was his job. Netanyahu has the asteroid Hephaistos, the armorer of the gods, the thunderbolts of Zeus, on his midheaven. He is throwing thunderbolts of weapons called the Iron Swords War all over Gaza, which has become a parking lot in north of Gaza. It is a parking lot. You cannot inhabit Gaza. There is no infrastructure left. More than 50% of the buildings are destroyed or uninhabitable. The university was demolished. The mosques were demolished. The churches were demolished. I don't mean by bombs, by demolition crews. Well, what are you doing? You're not demolishing empty buildings as an act of war, are you? That's not war. That's something else. So the reason I bring that up is because this fall from power of Icarus, who tried to reach the heights, may very well be one of these leaders, Biden or Netanyahu. Okay, but also, who else could it be, and what do you guys think? I'm going to pull up a chart and show you something. Okay, so here's what I want to show you guys, and I think this is pretty intense myself. So here we have it. This is Netanyahu's natal chart, born October 21st, 1949 at 10:15 a.m. And in Netanyahu's chart, he has his north node, alrighty, of fate, of destiny, of sometimes the worldly success we're quite capable of achieving. He has his north node sitting here at 16 degrees of the sign of Aries. And I don't know why I have hang on, let's just put him by himself. There's his north node in the sign of Aries. And 16 degrees and 41 minutes, you may as well round up to 17. The eclipse is at 19 degrees with the fall from power Icarus. And in essence, it's also opposite his sun, which is his ability to be a leader. In the nation of Israel's chart, Aries is the house of open enemies, the people who opponent to or are adversaries to Israel in its viewpoint as well. And we do see a fall from power of the open enemies of Israel. So there's also the indication possibly that somebody in great power, like the head of the Hamas or the axis of resistance or Iran, could be implicated. Iran has its sun at 10 degrees of Aries, if my memory serves me. So the nation of Iran also could experience some downfall as a result of this eclipse. This eclipse lasts 2.5 minutes, and therefore, according to Ptolemy, it could even influence the world over the next 2.5 years. But it is this north node that is in the chart of Netanyahu that will be experiencing this eclipse energy that makes me wonder what it's for. It's also an eclipse for Netanyahu that squares, okay, that comes into conflict with Jupiter in the sign of his fallen leader energy. That would definitely be potentially true for Netanyahu in this narrative. Okay. And remember, I told you his midheaven was here I can't draw it in, but his midheaven is conjunct the armor of the gods at time of birth, Hephaistos. He wants to throw thunderbolts down from the heavens, into wherever they're supposed to land. He's born to throw thunderbolts there. But also the asteroid America is on his midheaven, meaning that his rise to power and holding of power connects to America in many ways. Okay, in many ways. And that would be number one, the AIPAC, the fundraisers, the ones who buy the politicians with money to support Israel no matter what. Maybe even the born again Christian fundamentalist Armageddon apocalyptic messianic cults of America support this power that he has in his chart. He has the asteroid that can destroy the Earth in his midheaven area of the chart. That's the worst thing I think about this. It's definitely daunting to say the least. Okay. Now, hopefully I haven't scared you. You know, the bridge that fell in Baltimore today, I did a video about a prediction of some Chesapeake Bay calamity from a dream I had. It was in my world report for the equinox video, and my video editor do a short of it. But I had a dream about something coming off the water, attacking from the Chesapeake Bay, the eastern seaboard of the United States of America about a month ago. And it also goes with the speedboat of Mars hitting Saturn, the rocker wall, in the sign right now of Pisces. So, this, if it was an accident, like maybe just the thing was sort of drifting off and Mayday, Mayday, or was it Mayday, Mayday because someone destroyed the navigational software or tools of the cargo ship? So therefore, it's actually a terrorist attack. And I covered that in a separate video that I just recorded before this. So what else do I want to say before we move on? There was a thought I had before when I was looking at the chart of Netanyahu. What was it? Oh, I know what I was going to say. Let's go to that. When we're talking about these eclipses for the world, we're talking about North Node in Aries and South Node in Libra, but there's an alternate eclipse cycle in which a South Node is in Aries and the North Node is in Libra. With Israel being an Aries rising country, this is always going to bring about changes in the country as well during those alternate cycles. And the Camp David Accords of 1978, in which Egypt and Israel made a peace deal, that Camp David Accord period occurred when the Libra North Node was happening and the Aries South Node was happening back in 1977 to 1978. And then in the next cycle, in which the Libra eclipses were North Node and Aries were South Node, was in 1995 through 1997. And that also overlapped with the 1996 or 1995 assassination of Rabin, who was killed because the Oslo Peace Accords of 1993-94 were a part of a peace kind of vibe, right, that he was trying to do. And of course, the more religious fundamentalist right, particular zealot, assassinated him. So you still see that big pivotal stories happening when the Aries node is happening in the house of open enemies as a south node for Israel, because what that means is letting go or releasing or softening or ending the enemy story, right? And so we had the Camp David Accord in 1977, 78 period time frame, and the 95, 96, we had the aftermath of the Oslo, but then the assassination, unfortunately, of Rabin. So we're going to see these cycles keeping on until they're not. But can you say that the Middle East is a hotbed for humanity and its lessons in life? I'd say so. Okay. Today, on the day of this recording, March the 26th, I just watched the special rapporteur for the United Nations, a woman, deliver an absolutely riveting, eloquent, and heartbreaking speech about her determination that indeed Israel has been committing a genocide. And with the ICC court case still pending to complete, with Israel having to behave itself, and now with having recordings of visible evidence that have gone viral, like the drone that killed four young people walking on the street, not even in attack mode, that just came out sometime around the third week of March. There's mounting evidence, videography wise, plus IDF soldiers on TikTok showing their transgressions, that there are indeed what's the right word? Breaches of international law regarding the protocols of war and what constitutes forced displacement, ethnic cleansing, genocide, and all the things you're not supposed to do. I hope this doesn't flag this video, but I think at this point, everyone's now free to talk about it. All right, we're going back to the sky and we're going to do your sign. Hopefully that you're ready for that, or get ready to do your sign. Is there anything else I'd like to say about world events? I want you to go back in time and I want you to compare notes. This is where you're going to have the most results. Please listen with the idea of going back in your imagination and saying, just like when this happened before. So we're going to go back to the eclipses of April the 8th, 1986, add a year, solar eclipse, 19 degrees of Aries. We're going to go back to the eclipse of dates, brain. April the 8th, 2005, 19 degrees of Aries. And now here we have it again, Aries. I happen to be, just so you know, I am an Aries rising. And therefore, for me, I'm Aries rising, Aries sun and moon. I really resonate with these eclipses, not necessarily in the best possible way. Like I feel them very intensely because of the way my chart is constructed. And also I'm an Aquarius rising, which makes these eclipses third house matters. So we'll start with Aries, but I always use me as an example every now and then just to add some spice to the mix. So let me cue the chart on the back end to start with the Aries sun, moon, and rising. I'm going to go back in time. Back in time. All right, I've got Aries queued. And make sure I have the date right, because I've been busy meandering all over the place showing you guys content that put me off the track. And sorry. Okay, April the 8th. Ugh. Big sigh from me on that one. I'm going to cue it so that it looks perfect. To 19 degrees. Forget the change, forget the exact time. Don't do anything gnarly. Don't get angry at someone on a solar eclipse. Don't crash your car. Stay calm, wear white, be super chill. Don't look at it if you can avoid it. It's not a good idea to look at eclipses. Okay, just not. According to the ancients, I believe them. The time I watched a lunar eclipse in 2016, my health was jeopardized. My life went to hell in a handbasket. Was it just because of an eclipse? Probably not, but I'll just say I won't do that again. All right. Here we have it. Don't ask me why in the comments. Just the ancients say it's a portal. It's got like potential energies coming through it. It can be like a darkening of the light of the moon or the sun. And so it's like precarious times when the light is dark, the dark is bigger. So just, meditate, eat lightly, wear white, stay calm, stay chill. Okay. Here we have the April 8th, 2004 eclipse, and we're going to start with the Aries rising. Of course, when I get over here, the Aries isn't there. Ha. Now, this is probably a two-part video because Lori's got to do some stuff today. So she'll start the rest of this video another day. Yeah, here we go. Maybe I can get it done. I'm going to do another video on this anyway. Let's see if I can give you the lay of the land. Let's see if I give you the lay of the land here, right? Without having to go into too much detail. And then I'll do another longer video as we get closer to the eclipse. So Aries, sun, moon, and rising sign. Wow. Do you have your Aries, sun, moon, or rising anywhere near the 19th degree? Okay, then it's a big deal for you, especially within 3 degrees of either side. You can go back to what your life was like in, April of 86, add a year, and April of 2005, add a year. What was going on? What can you remember back then? I can say Aries sun. Sun is best for your career. Okay. Sun is best for career and purpose matters. Moon for your body, mind, and your home matters. And rising sign, everything about you. What were you doing back then in those areas of your life for those Aries placements in your chart? So when I think about me in 1986, April, add a year, I had moved my home to Vancouver from the eastern seaboard of the United States. So there was a big relocation for me. That's a big change of identity by changing my relocation, my area I lived in. And I can also remember that in the second one that we're talking about in 2005, April, I also had a significant, let me go back, life-changing circumstance. I got my official divorce. So changes of identity. I'm married or I reside in a place, waves of seeing yourself. You are changing. Your identity is changing. Your inner life is changing. Your sense of self is changing in a dramatic and significant and powerful way. It's a north node change, so it can expand you. Rahu can mean the foreigner. Indeed, my 1986 move led in 87 to a move to the United States. So it was like the precursor energy for that relocation. And you can say that you have to be a little careful because with Icarus here, how could you, end up like self-wounding because you had a fall from power? You were up high, you were feeling up at the top of the sky, you're feeling leaderful and bold, and you kind of melted and your wings melted, and there's a chironic wound. The chironic wound that's been in play here since 2019 is about a sense of self and not really belonging to yourself and not really maybe not liking the way you look, maybe having a wound to your body, in your health matters, maybe feeling wounded in your identity since 2019, the Chironic ingress into the sign of Aries. But now this is like maybe an opportunity with an eclipse embedding Chiron to heal the wound, to let that Chironic wound go. And in fact, it would have been in February 19th and March the 5th that the North Node and Chiron joined true and mean node. And so now you have an eclipse that over the next year or more, you can heal a deep Chironic wound that's been active since 2019. As well, you may find yourself because of this eclipse, and I maybe should just delineate this a little bit more cleanly, right? It's a hot mess, but Mars is the ruler of the eclipse, and he's in aversion over in Pisces, not really witnessing the eclipse in his own home, but he's still there. And so he could bring you some really strong results in the next year to do with how you need to cut, end, and sever something that could hold you back, an addiction, a self-sabotaging pattern, or how you may want to travel extensively in the next year, or even consider a move to another country because he's in the house of other countries. But he is getting ready to hit that obstacle of Saturn. So he's coming into Saturn's energy field, requiring you to be structured, disciplined, and cautious in any big, bold moves you might want to make regarding addiction, self-undoing, self-defeating patterns, revenue from foreign shores, and travel or moves to other countries. All right, and let's keep moving. I think I could do this in half an hour. Taurus, sun, moon, and rising sign. You've got a story building up in your sky that says, what is it that you're going to do like you did April 8th, April of 96 out a year, April of 2005, add a year, rinse and repeat, spiral through. This is about your 12th house. This is definitely good for self-undoing, self-sabotaging strategies, patterns, and habits that you can ditch out the end of your life. Get rid of them. This is really good for revenue generating endeavors through international borderless income, traveling, going on an ashram, spiritual retreat, spiritual enlivenment, and maybe connecting to karmic matters, past life matters that need completion or inflammation to investigate them. Because Icarus fell from the sky, be careful you don't fall from the sky because of self-undoing or addiction. But Lord Saturn wants to help contain something here. He's hitting the cautious note of Saturn. From your groups of belonging and friendship circles and greater career gains, some of you Tauruses are going to exit stage left around groups of friends and no longer have those friends, but also you're allowing yourself to come into some deep soul healing that was active since 2019 as Chiron gave you an existential wound around your karma, your soul, your past lives. Maybe you're your own worst enemy during this last, since 2019 onward, or maybe you had to deal with a father or father figure or mother figure who spent time in a hospital since 2019. And now you're turning the corner on that as well. Look to this next year for sure, though, to have Lord Mars as Lord of the eclipse do something for you in that part of your sky that represents those larger gains and goals and dreams for your life, but also those people that you call your friends. I expect some hardship with friends giving way to letting go of those tribes and friends of belonging in your life in the next year. Gemini, sun, moon, and rising sign. Wow, go back. April of 86, right? What was happening? April of 2005, and add a year each time, because here we are yet again. The 11th house eclipse energy is important because it's where you make the greater gains and assets and rewards from your career of the 10th. But it's also the place where you experience your influence in the world, your corporate colleagues, social networks and friends and groups of belonging, as well as your long-range plans and dreams for your life. Lots of things happen. It's including the house of your elder sibling, if you have an elder sibling, one above you. So there may have been challenges in that area of your life as change and expansion was called forth on each of these eclipses in the past. And here you go again. Be very careful that you do not fall from the sky like Icarus and have a existential wound here. Because if you do fall from the sky, it's a falling out with this elder sibling, a friendship, a group of belonging, a collegiate work structure, or maybe in the way those career gains had risen to a height, but they can fall. Certainly with Venus here as a goddess of money in her detriment, financial difficulties through the career path can happen. Be diligent. Mars is asking you to leave and take and end and sever something in your career space that's done in a structured and wise, sage-like way that is also done in a cautious way as well. You need to take something away from your career in order for the thrival to happen and from the fall from the heavens to happen. As a progressed sun, I am overworked with my clients and my videos and my classes, and I know I could fall if I don't take care of it, and I am leaving, cutting, ending, and severing the number of clients I see dramatically as I move forward in my cautiously structured way in my career. That's me as an example. With my sun, my career progressed into Gemini. Your progressed placements are never as important as your natal, but you can use them as icing on the old cake of reality. All right? If you want. All right, moving on. This is a simple video. I will do another video coming up on this eclipse as an update video. It's too important not to. All right, so your ascendant is in the sign of Cancer, then this is your 10th house of career. What career and reputation changes were happening in your life? April of 1986 and April of 2005, add a year after each of those. Can you remember? Because this is definitely back again. Some of you may expand and grow a better career, but Chiron has been giving you an existential wound in the house of careers stuff ever since 2011. 2019. And so maybe you're trying to be on true purpose, find your true purpose, be in alignment with your true career, but you've been having trouble doing that. And now you're going to heal that wound, perhaps, especially after February and March's 19th and March 5th, North Node Chiron conjunctions. So this is also opening up a healing and a deeper purpose in your life, in your career. But how could you fall and melted wings from the sky? Well, your boss could fall. The sun can be, the boss retires and falls down and you get to rise up, into new positions of power. But also you and your own ambition can fall from power. So temper your intensity around the degree to which you wish to succeed in your life's purpose career domain. At the same time, you do have this energy going on of Mars, Lord of the eclipse in the 9th house, who could propel you to take passionate actions, decisions around education and learning, and sign up for some higher learning courses. Also, this can be about the book publishing world and making some changes or decisions around that, or even to do with countries, travels, and foreign shores. Certainly with Mercury up there as the Lord of the eclipse dominating the 12th house of his home, some of you may want to travel quite a lot in the next year. And maybe you did want to travel before in these other eclipses, but this could indicate a lot of foreign land travel. And for some, very few of you, maybe a decision to relocate your home to another country. As a Cancer rising, because you're having so much South Node energy, a lot of you may be letting go of a home, homeland, or domestic environment in the year or 2.5 years after this eclipse. Leo, sun, moon, and rising sign. With this eclipse in your 9th house of God, you have a lot of potential here for an expansion and change of your spiritual philosophy, ideology, and the way you see the world working for you. Now, father figures can be here in Vedic astrology, so there can be some eclipsing of a father figure, not just a dad, but someone who's like a father figure to you. Go back to April 8th of 1986, of course, add a year, and then April of 2005, add a year. Did you have any falling out or difficulties or eclipsing of a father figure in your life? As well, because you've been wounded here since 2019, maybe in a father figure relationship, or something to do with higher education and academia, or something wounded around foreign shores and travel, or wounds around things to do with legal and court matters. All the meanings of the 9th house, or book publishing wounds as well. This wound is trying to heal now, and this eclipse can be the portal in the next year for that greater healing that you may have been experiencing because of Chiron here since 2019. Because Mars is the Lord of this eclipse, he's moving through Pisces in your chunky money house for book publishing people. A chance of receiving some shift around royalty income and agreements around passive income. For father figure people, this unfortunately could look like inheritance money coming to you in the next year to 2 years after this eclipse. Yes, I'll have to say it, from the fall or the ending of a father figure in your life. Don't take it too personally. It's just a general reading, okay? Mars here is bumping into a wall, and you have to structure your long-range finances, your 401k, your shared monies with a spouse. in a new way with Pluto here. Only a very few of you, if you're married to a father figure, or if you're expecting legal battles over resources and divorce, can be experiencing money from the end of a marriage in legal matters, or because unfortunately, perhaps some of you, the passing of a spouse. And if that happens, then this is what we're seeing, unfortunately, making it look like some challenges maybe as you proceed with the legal matters regarding division of marital assets in some manner in your life over the year or two from this eclipse. Virgo, sun, moon, and rising sign. This is an eclipse that you had in April of 1986, and again, April of 2005. Add a year for each of those at the minimum in the chunky money. Did you inherit money? Did you get money from a spouse? Did you have a divorce settlement? What happened? For my daughter, who's a Virgo rising, the April eclipse of 1986 did indeed bring her in some inheritances. Is that true? Which year am I in? No, that wasn't true. It was later on, the April 2005 eclipse that settled my mom's estate, and she ended up with a small dispensation from that when she was a child. So yes, eclipses for you, Virgos, can bring inheritance money from you or your spouse coming through the sky in the next year or two that benefit you or your partnership. But at the same time, there's watching out, be careful with investments, stock investments, things to do with your 401k or your RSP, your registered retirement savings plans, things to do with that chunky money you rely on, because Icarus can indicate you overextend yourself and have a fall. Be careful with the stock market, especially in this part, or a falling energy around a father figure, perhaps, and money from inheritances. Because of Mars, the lawsuit got in the house of legal negotiations. There may be some tension around shared monies in inheritances and spousal situations over the next 2 years. Spousal meaning like a husband or wife, because you live together or spend many monogamous years together. But Mars is also trying to help you structure something financially, perhaps, off of this eclipse regarding legal agreements, negotiations, and contracts and settlements in marriage relationships and in inheritance matters over the next 2 years. And if you're in legal battle, you will win, because Jupiter is in your house of courts and you will be protected. Libra, sun, moon, and rising. Wow, angular to you, right? Eclipses, 19 degrees of Aries across the way in the house of your spouse, your marriage partner, your significant other, and your audience and marketplace. Certainly there can be an eclipsing of a client, an eclipsing of a spousal type partner, an eclipsing of a business partnership, an ending, in other words, a completion, but also a portal for new beginnings. Someone significant to you in your life may fall from power. They may have the rise and the wound. You have been wounded, Libra, in love and business relationships and client relationships and audience marketplace relationships ever since 2019, as the ingress of Chiron happened here. And look for this eclipse to open a double door of healing, because in March, around the 5th and the 19th of February, North Node true and mean met with Chiron, and now this eclipse is happening conjunct Chiron. Heal the wound of the other. It's your time. It's your turn. And they also can heal a fundamental wound that they are having as well. Now, because the Lord of the eclipse is Mars, and he's in your 6th house of work and debt and pets and rentals, potentially the year ahead involves a lease agreement for a rental property. Maybe this eclipse is opening up a doorway for a new job and a new legal agreement about a new job. To take the job is a 7th house legal agreement. Maybe there's changes, and unfortunately big changes with pets, especially if a pet is eldering out. But there are, because Saturn, Grim Reaper, Mars, accidents, injuries, or endings. So maybe this eclipse can also end a pet situation for you in a way that can mean, yes, unfortunately, a pet could pass. But all said and done, this eclipse is opening up changes in the wound of your relationship to the significant others in your life. Scorpio, sun, moon, and rising sign. The eclipse is happening in your 6th house of work and health matters. Certainly, you want to not overextend yourself and grind too hard in work, because you may have an Icarus fall from the sky, but your boss or colleague, coworker could fall, and you could be resoundingly benefiting from that fall, meaning you get to move up a rank or take their position. Watch out for your health. Of course, there's energy of inflammation when we see Aries stelliums like this in the house of sickness, especially around headaches, head, face, the face part of your body. And so be careful for your health, not just on the eclipse, but over the year that follows. What was happening in April of 86 and then April of 2005, add a year with work and health matters. Maybe it indicated challenges in those windows of time. My son is a Scorpio rising. I'm trying to remember what happened with him in those time frames. Time. It's just a blur once you get rolling, right? Well, he was so young in those time frames. He was a child. He wasn't born for the first one. So 2005, six, what was that poor kid up to? He was in school. We had moved. We relocated to a new school. I can't speak for him. Just trying to find examples. Tell me, if you're an old enough Scorpio, what was going on there? If you need to decrease the debt, it's hard with the inflammation of Rahu and the Chironic wound. Do you owe credit card money, mortgage money? Are you burdened by debt? Certainly this eclipse can be a closure or ending of a debt, and then you can complete it, especially with that sextile from Pluto in a whole sign sextile. Mars is a ruler of the eclipse in the house of children, fertility, sexuality, romance, creative projects, entrepreneurship. This is an indication that over the next 12 months after this eclipse, some of this area of your life might be very active, but Mars is hitting a hard wall. So you wanted to have a baby, but it's becoming difficult or challenging. Maybe you want to make a reset button and you're not sure about it. You may want to pause that endeavor. Romantic love and sexual love can be hard and challenging, and you're hitting a wall there. And, it's all connected to the sixth house, which is also connected to karmic debts. And so if you're in a bad love relationship that's karmically indebted, it could close that relationship out. Though those of you in existing love relationships do have some love up from Jupiter here, but Jupiter's tricky. He ends beleaguered relationships as much as he blesses existing ones. So keep that in mind. Hey, Sagittarius, sun, moon, and rising sign. Wowzer, you've got the ascendant. You've got this eclipse in your fifth house flowing to your ascendant. You are like a Leo. You don't mind it so much. But with this eclipse flowing here to you from the fifth house, it's opening up doors of change in creativity, entrepreneurship, fertility, romance, sexuality. This is definitely a wounded place for you, especially the sexual energy and the romantic energy. How have you been feeling about that part of your life since 2019 with Chiron going through here? It's different than in April of 1986 add a year and April of 2005 add a year, because Chiron wasn't here. So it's a wounded version of those ones. Maybe you can't get pregnant. Maybe you can't find love in all the wrong places. Maybe your entrepreneurial creative projects are sucking. So now you've got a door of something new and a big energy, total solar eclipse, a massive reset button. But with Icarus, don't fall from the sky with an entrepreneurial creative project by being over ambitious. Don't try too hard for the romantic love to work. Falling from the sky is here. Because the Lord of the eclipse, though, is Mars in your fourth house, he could say this: if your IC floats here in whole sign houses, a change of home. And so some of you Sagittarius will move. This is the expat Mars, maybe even to a far off foreign land, which she owns, by the way, your 12th house of far off places and residences you could move to. So some of you may be looking to reset your joy, fun, play, pleasure, passion. And maybe because of that, entrepreneurial zest, creative zest, or romantic love. New one could come in here for you guys, a destined love story. You may change the home you live in, whether it's your home or homeland, I don't know. But you're going to feel some frustration with that Mars Saturn over the next year. It kind of bakes in a sense of frustration, but it also can be a very structured, wise, and disciplined relocation coming for some of you to a dream home, Neptune, in the next year or so. Hey, Capricorn, sun, moon, and rising. Nothing like an angular eclipse squaring you. This is down in your fourth house. This is home, property, land, and real estate. Go to April of 1986, add a year. Go to April of 2005, add a year. Did you change your home? Most likely many of you did. And if you didn't, then you had some struggles and changes within the home. I would open up an idea here that this eclipse is healing the chironic wound of where's my true home that you've been feeling since 2019, which can come to a close in the next year as you begin to find your true home. But don't reach too hard because Icarus is here. Don't get desperate and buy the wrong house or move at the wrong time. Let the dust settle. Let the dust settle. Let the dust settle. You are also looking at Mars, the lord of this eclipse, in the house of trips and travel. Siblings, younger, aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, and nephews, generic siblings as well. You could have a change of home connected to a sibling, connected to extended family, connected to travel opportunities, connected to a change of neighborhood. Saturn says frustration or gas pedal versus brake. So you may have, it may happen in fits and starts that you could have a change of neighborhood as well. Or again, travel leads to a change of home, or again, maybe something to do with a sibling or a learning opportunity changes your home, especially if the learning is skills-based learning that applies to a career path. And that may also indicate maybe learning and moving or learning and traveling and changes of home. For some of you, Capricorn, Sun, Moon, and Rising in the year ahead, or a change of home connected to siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, nephews, and neighbors. I'm one of you, Aquarius, Sun, Moon, and Rising. We have an eclipse again, like we had in April of 1986 plus a year, April of 2005 plus a year, the same degree, 19 in our third house. Well, an eclipse of a sibling relationship, an eclipse of a neighborhood, an eclipse of a neighbor, an eclipse of a childhood friendship, an eclipse or ending or change around travel and travel opportunities, or writing and writing projects, opening one thing door and closing one door, opening another. In 1986, it led for me as an Aquarius rising, add a year to a, what was I doing? 86. I finished journalism school and I moved to a new city, a change of neighborhood in my country of Canada. As well, if I look back to myself as an Aquarius rising, in 2005, add a year, I got a divorce, but I also changed my neighborhood. For me, it's been both times changes of neighborhoods, more or less. So I could change my neighborhood, I guess, as Aquarius rising. But this is a chironic wound in the house of neighbors and neighborhood, travel and skills-based learning and teaching and writing. And that's back again. I mean, that's different than then because Chiron's been feeling us. We've been feeling the wound here since 2019. I haven't written anything worthwhile on my blog since 2019. I have a writing wound. My neighborhoods have changed. I've moved around in Canada a lot. I haven't settled. I've had some losses of friends from my childhood as they passed away or died from my younger years. So I've had hardship with a sibling at one point. So there's this kind of energy that has been playing through the woundedness since 2019. This is a turning point healing eclipse in that area of our lives, okay? And because it's Lord Mars in the house of earnings, where we have frustration and conservative wisdom meeting ambition and drive. Some of this next year will be this push-pull, frustration, gas pedal brake energy in the earnings as we try to figure out how those earnings can dovetail with this healing of neighborhood, siblings, and all the things I've just told you. If I had to make a guess for myself, I'll change my neighborhood, which usually means I'm staying within Canada, but it's also connected to the earnings principle and the way the money is being made in my life at this time. Think about how it might play out for you. And finally, the best sign of the zodiac, you Pisces mystics, this is your sky. You have an eclipse you saw in April of 86 and April of 2005, out a year each time, back again. Well, it's your earnings story, guys. How are you going to make money in a new way? Ending or beginning new earning strategies. Don't fall from the sky like Icarus. Don't reach too hard. Don't be too ambitious. But money and earning stories are on the increase, as well as changes in your food style. What you eat and put in your throat mouth is here. And some of you will make big changes in the way you eat or drink or smoke something. Now, this is an energy where you would feel wounded since 2019 in money, earnings, possessions, and all the resources you need to thrive in this lifetime, let alone survive. And so because it has been this existential wound, this is playing through that chart, this is the healing of that wound. You're ready to move past it. I'm celebrating you for moving past this chironic wound of self-worth, self-value, and earnings. And as you do move past this wound, Mars is you. You are wanting to drive forward, forward with powerful decisions and enable actions from those decisions. But you're also facing the frustration because your inner wise man, wise woman is saying, go slow, be cautious. So over the next year, cautious, slow, but decisive moves towards brand new earnings for you in a positive way. I must leave. I've got to go off, drive my daughter to school. Thanks for listening. Subscribe, like, hit the notification bell. If you like this kind of content, 40 videos a month, Patreon community gets this early access ad-free on March the 26th. If that interests you, come aboard my Patreon community. 2 free gifts, Chiron, the key to purpose, Synastry, Are You My Person relationship course. They are free. If I talk too fast today, I apologize, but I am an auctioneer at heart, and you can always slow me down on the playback speed. There's a tip for you. Ciao, guys. I'm off to pick up my daughter. Big hugs to all of you regulars. Thanks for liking, subscribing, and hit that bell for notifications.